This is 15-Minute Fundamentals, where we interview crypto projects' core contributors and together walk through the charts available on Token Terminal. In this episode, we discuss the basics of GMX, a non-custodial exchange for spot and perpetual contracts built on Arbitrum and Avalanche. The crypto exchange market is one of the most competitive within the space, and it can be split into two high-level categories. We have centralized exchanges, where Binance leads the pack with over tens of billions in daily trading volume, followed by Coinbase and Kraken. Then we have decentralized exchanges such as GX and Uniswap, where the average daily trading volume has been hovering around $1 to $2 billion respectively. Exchanges typically generate revenue by taking a cut of trading fees paid on their platform, and if we compare to traditional finance, the monthly trading volume on, for example, the New York Stock Exchange is in excess of $1.5 trillion per month, so the market opportunity is inevitably massive. In this episode with Coinflipcanada from GMX, we discuss what the protocol is, how it works, its position within the market, their economic model, core contributors, tokenomics, and more. Hello, Coinflipcanada. It is great to have you on 15-Minute Fundamentals.
Thanks for having me.
Today, we're going to be speaking about GMX. And before we dive into any of the details, it would be awesome if you could give us a quick introduction for anyone that might not yet be familiar.
Happy to. GMX is a on-chain perpetuals and spot exchange. We're currently deployed on Arbitrum and Avalanche, two of the leading EVM chains. And we effectively utilize an interesting combination of liquidity pools, Oracle pricing to create deep liquid markets for trading on-chain. And that's something that all the users can do on both those public blockchains directly from their wallets.
Awesome. And how would you describe the core problem that GMX set out to solve? So put another way, what is GMX's purpose?
The way the DAO is set up, we quite often end up putting a lot of things to votes, trying to decide which way we want to focus on. A lot of the questions that have sort of led to development of products has been centered around how do you create liquid markets on chain? And that's really, I think, some of the nut that we've kept cracking in different ways. When GMX started, which sort of was this outgrowth of a few other protocols that sort of merged together and created the DAO, it was how do you take even a limited amount of capital and create liquid on-chain markets? And that's one of the things that GLP and our Oracle system helped to crack. And now as GMX has sort of scaled and we've got over $500 million in our liquidity pools, we're now looking at how do you make liquid markets that operate really efficiently at scale. So it's kind of always about that. How do we create an experience on chain, which is not some subset or a sub experience of the centralized exchange experience, but the preferred experience?
Got it. And let's dive into how you are creating those liquid markets on chain. I would love for you to give us a breakdown of GMX's core products and their features so we understand how you're making it happen.
GMX has largely been powered using a liquidity pool. Now, a liquidity pool is something that's not an innovation of GMX. It's something that has kind of been a foundational piece of DeFi over the last few years as the market's developed. We've sort of tried to see how can you take that idea of a passive liquidity pool that helps to make markets, is a market maker, but apply it with a slightly different approach. And that's involved, I mentioned, working with price oracles so that whenever we're looking at executing trades on GMX, those trades are being executed at the current market price. And that's taking price discovery from centralized exchanges, other exchanges, any place which has deep liquidity trading of the big tokens that are available on GMX, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Avalanche, Uni, Link. Taking that external price discovery and extending it so that you can execute these trades on chain. And that's both spot swapping, but it's also leverage trading. And I think leverage trading has been by volume the biggest part of the crypto market, largely, again, housed within centralized exchanges. So we've basically extended that so that you can extend that experience and be able to leverage trade on chain. I think in terms of the mechanics, one of the really interesting aspects is that GMX, as opposed to a lot of vaults and protocols, has worked with a model that's built around being 100% backed. Every single trade that is executed on GMX, if somebody wants to long 100 Bitcoin, there are 100 Bitcoin in the liquidity pool that can be set aside to settle those trades even if Bitcoin goes to $1 billion. It doesn't matter because the tokens, the ability to settle that position is there. If somebody wants to open a short, there is $1 available from the liquidity pool, which is the market maker, to settle those positions. So I think that's one of the other interesting aspects. It's basically brought that clear transparency that wasn't available in centralized exchanges and is available on chain, so that when you trade, you know who your counterparty is and you know that they can settle that trade no matter what happens.
And now that we know a bit about the features and how things work, how would you describe the perpetual exchange market in general, and especially from the perspective of your position within it? So who are you benchmarking against and what makes you unique within that mix?
In terms of benchmarking, I would say that when we look at what call it quote unquote parlance of the addressable market, we really do look right now at what the large centralized exchanges do in terms of volume. So those would be a Binance, a Bybit, Huobi, and the like. FTX even obviously previously when it existed. And then on the other side, there's the other group that I think a lot of people do make comparisons to, which is a number of the other decentralized protocols that are within DeFi that are looking at this problem. Protocols like DYDX or perpetuals and the like, Hubble. And interestingly enough, I think and we do a lot of discussion with a lot of these other protocols. To a great extent, I don't think a lot of us benchmark against each other because we know that the real goal is about bringing trading natively on chain, and so kind of that's what we focus on and we benchmark. We try to look to see as the perpetuals market is growing, when it's growing, how what are we doing in terms of capturing share in that market, being able to deliver that product to more and more users who are looking for it on chain. So there's a large universe there. But additionally, I think there's a lot of other assets, if you take traditional markets, that start to blend together with what we do in perpetuals. I mean, in reality, there are options markets, there are spot markets, there are leveraged spot markets. All of them sort of blend together in terms of a trading experience. So we kind of look at the entirety of the experience and make sure that we deliver what we consider a strong backbone within that environment. I think one of the other aspects that also comes into play is that a lot of GMX's volume has now been starting to come from integration with other protocols. We've really aspired to try to make sure that we're a strong partner for everybody else within the ecosystems, Arbitrum and Avalanche, where we're building, that they know that there's a capital efficient solution on chain for being able to both take on exposure or hedge that exposure depending on what their vaults, their strategies, their protocols need. And I think that's another big aspect of where GMX sort of sets itself apart. By existing in public blockchains, we're able to be this base building block for other protocols as well.
I'd love to speak a bit about your financials. So, starting with your economic model, including the tokenomics, so how value flows through the protocol and how it's distributed to different stakeholders involved, including liquidity providers and then value capture on the protocol side.
Absolutely. I think interestingly, what we've tried to do from the outset, and there's been a lot of evolution as the DAO has voted on various changes and the ways that we approach this, was to say that we should ensure that the protocol is built for sustainability. And that was both identifying how do you ensure that there is value going to liquidity providers? How do you ensure that there is value going back to stakers and others who've helped to bootstrap up the liquidity of the token and the platform as a whole? So after many different iterations, we've sort of settled at a ratio which is 70-30 right now, which sort of reflects that 70% of the fees generated by the protocol go back directly to liquidity providers, whereas 30% come back to the protocol and currently all go back to protocol stakers. And we also did run an incentive campaign or a bootstrap campaign built around what was termed ESGMX, which are GMX tokens, but that function and can be staked like GMX. But if you want to sell them or monetize them, I guess from a liquidity event, you need to vest them over a 1-year period. And what that did was that it also attracted very stable, patient capital who was attracted to that same mission as the DAOs, which was to build these robust on-chain markets. And that's not a process that happens in days and weeks. That is a process that is weeks and months and longer in the making. And so that we really have focused on making sure that there's a real long-term alignment for everybody who's working together to build out the protocol. And I think what we've also been really happy is that it's really put a focus and a discipline on everybody involved that, as I said, sustainability means that you should be able to have funds flow through the protocol and the protocol be sustainable. Today, we don't have any further incentives that are running for our liquidity pool, which, as I mentioned, between Arbitrum and Avalanche has $500 million of liquidity, generating trading volumes that sort of average roughly about $500 million a day of late in volume. And that to us proves that there's a sustainable model. In reality, even if you were to look at incentives, sometime early last year, I don't know the exact dates, it was somewhere around maybe April or May of last year, the value of incentives, even if any incentives were going to liquidity providers, was lower than what the protocol was retaining to help bootstrap and build up the protocol itself, which really showed the sustained direction and move towards ensuring a sustainable protocol.
Somewhat related to that, I wanted to ask what your current main growth drivers or challenges on that front might be.
Yeah, so I think that a lot of what is driving us right now is focusing on the experience over the last year. What has worked, what we think we could have done better, what we're not able to, for example, update within the existing protocol, given a series of, many of them being immutable contracts. And that's kind of led us towards what we've kind of codenamed GMX since for synthetic markets, but basically it's our version 2. And that's really been about us now is looking at the quality of external data that comes into the protocol, which historically used to be, a single number, the price. But there's a lot more information that is relevant, be it market depth, volatility, and the like, that is available and can be aggregated to help create these on-chain markets. How can we bring in that data and ensure that that's done in as trustless a manner as possible, working with decentralized data providers? How can we work to make sure that the market actually can help better mimic, working with these oracles and this data, a wider set of assets than, for example, the singular large assets that we feel comfortable right now operating within our existing model? How can we make sure that liquidity providers receive a lot more comfort that the market will stay relatively balanced in terms of longs, shorts, and exposure? Because our goal is to create a liquid market and ensure there's liquidity providers to take care of that middle of the market. But there's great opportunities to help balance the market. Again, nothing as a new innovation that GMX has brought about, but be it, say, funding rates between longs and shorts, be it working with price impact, both positive and negatively. All of them being effectively concepts that you would find a market maker who is trying to balance their own inventory might be taking on a private basis, but taking that and building that within the core of the protocol itself so that it becomes an even more attractive venue for liquidity providers to provide liquidity to help support these large liquid markets. And it provides traders, be they small or large, a trading experience that hopefully they will find to be ideally bar none. Quick execution, limit orders, stop loss orders, any features that we can keep building out now, working with the combination of our oracles and keepers. And I would say that the great majority of our time goes towards safety and security. That's on the existing GMX platform that runs. I mean, I like to always draw attention. We maintain a $5 million bug bounty through working in partnership with Immunify. That's a bug bounty backed with hard dollars. There's actually USDC or DAI sitting in accounts to back that bug bounty, not protocol tokens. And that's to say, we want to work with white hats in the industry, anybody who can support us. It is working as we're working through V2, multiple audits, where literally as we speak, doing this recording, we have a public audit along with the bug bounty campaign running with Sherlock. So for us, I think safety and security is the other big piece. And the rest of this year is additionally going to be focused on, I think, a word I've already mentioned a few times, sustainability, but also decentralization. Just continuing to keep that as our guiding principle. We're not all the way where I would like to be, or I think many contributors, members of the DAO want us to be. We just keep moving in that direction.
Now, as you are working on V2 at the moment, and I'd love to backtrack a bit to the product discussion and maybe dive into a bit more of a technical overview of your product. And what I'm interested in is how much of your smart contract infrastructure has been natively built for GMX, through which you've brought innovations to the market, and how much has been forked from other existing protocols out there?
I'll say this. I'm not a software developer myself, so I don't want to misspeak, but I would tell you that I'm sure there are, code libraries and the such that are, generally you will reference that are kind of open source universal code bases. Other than that, I would be hard pressed to see if there's anything that is forked within the GMX codebase. Even when building V2, it's been reconstructed by core contributors from the ground up, obviously relying in some amount on, what knowledge and what was built with, GLP or version 1. But no, there's a real focus on, I guess, fresh native code. What I referred to before had more to do with the fact that we know that we build on the shoulders of giants. What Uniswap did with the simplicity of something like Uniswap V2 was something that revolutionized the DeFi space. And again, they built on the shoulders of people like Bancor and other people who came before them who applied some of these concepts. They just applied it more elegantly. So I think, we take inspiration and taking that example, when we talk about, the perpetuals product, which is a futures product that does not exist to the extent that it exists in crypto outside within traditional finance. I'd say it's innovation of, if not the blockchain, but the crypto space, right? BitMEX and others being, the early leaders in that space. And again, taking inspiration. I don't want to do a maximalist thing about DeFi versus centralized exchanges. I think there was some very good ideas there. And there's nothing wrong with taking those ideas and saying, now how do we do those in a transparent manner? How do we now take those same things and make an environment that you don't need to trust us. Leave your custody all your funds with GMX. You're ready to open a trade. You can take just those funds, deposit those funds, open your position, taking what other people have done to really improve the customer experience over time. Just apply those lessons to the products that are being built.
Yeah, you mentioned core contributors of the protocol. I'd love to hear some kind of high-level overview of the team or the core contributors at GMX. So how is the DAO structured?
The contributors of GMX are either anon or pseudo-anon. So I won't go too much into everybody's individual histories. What I will say is that everybody comes from a very diverse set of backgrounds. Most of our core contributors on the development side have had experience within software development, even outside of crypto, and many years within the space. Many of our contributors have worked actually on a number of the protocols, things like XFix and Gambit and the like, that sort of have slowly, they merged together and created and decided to come under this singular DAO structure. And, it's a very small footprint. I won't say the exact numbers, but then, I think we have governance votes whenever we're bringing in sort of core contributors. Probably one of the smallest footprints that you'll find within DeFi. And a lot of that has to do with the direction that I would say the contributors have thought about, but it's extended and the DAO has really embraced, which is that this is not about building this large organization that is going to deliver everything. It's actually about the core product. Most of the innovation getting built now on GMX is actually coming from other protocols. So as I said, we're a base layer. We're not an options protocol, but we'd like to support options protocols who can grow their vaults using GMX. We'd like to support the countless Delta neutral, Delta plus, capital protected vaults, everybody who's building products. GMX is not building those. Other people are building those. And so if you even go back to the tokenomics of GMX, there was a really large amount of tokens set aside exactly for the purpose of ecosystem developers, partnerships, and just building out this ecosystem. And that's actually, when we talk about GMX, it's actually, I'll just say my Telegram probably, I'm not joking when I say this, there's upwards of probably 400 chats. At least 100 of those are in some stage of active development, of which I think almost 50 who are actually actively live or virtually about to be live. That for us is actually, when you think about the development resources behind GMX, to us, that is actually the big firepower, you could say.
I'm going to tag on to the topic of your tokenomics, which, you've mentioned a few times on what GMX is used for and its purpose for incentivizing certain usage and certain contributions. But just to have one clear overview, what is both the GMX and then the GLP tokens purposes?
Absolutely. So GLP, I think, is very simply put, it is a token that reflects an interest in a liquidity pool. Right now, within our existing models, there's one liquidity pool on Arbitrum, there's one liquidity pool on Avalanche. Within V2, we're going to be having, actually, I would say, we will have something that is akin to a GLP that will also come out as well, but we'll also have individual liquidity pools to help support isolated individual markets for more exotic assets. Because again, some liquidity providers will be interested in having a broad basket of exposure to just, let's say, one or two blue chips like ETH and BTC, whereas I think many others, under the right circumstances, will want to help bootstrap up these other individual markets. And I can just use an example. Tokens that are even non-EVM tokens, things like, let's say, maybe it's a Doge or it's an ADA or an XRP and the like. So that's kind of what our liquidity pools look like. The GMX token is effectively a token that represents the governance of the protocol itself. It is both stakeable for a portion of the fee stream for those who stake their tokens, and it also gives them a say in the governance of the protocol, and obviously multiple levers and incentives as we're now sort of getting to now, I'll call it a more full basket of products under GMX, the ability to direct how those are managed, how those are implemented and incentivized.
And then just one final question for this interview. That is, what's next for GMX? I know you're busy building V2 right as we speak, but is there anything other from your mid to long-term roadmap that you'd like to mention here?
So, I think in the immediate horizon, we've started a campaign working with Ava Labs, the foundation that supports Avalanche. We've got Rush incentives, so we're really working with them to create some innovative campaigns around adoption within that ecosystem. So we'll continue to have announcements around that. Working with protocols is, I think, a really big part. And that's obviously, as I said, ones who are already building on GMX, but already starting the discussions for how people can look to build on V2. So really, our focus is sort of, I'd say, going forward in that direction. Obviously, there's going to be a V3 or a V4 or a V5, et cetera, if that's the direction that the DAO wants to go in. And, many contributors have different thoughts, but we really are trying to keep our eye on the ball, which is, we think there's a great experience that people already have on GMX, and we think we can improve that and expand that, and then we'll go from there.
That sounds great. Looking forward to following your guys' progress and seeing how everything plays out. Thank you so much, Coin, for this comprehensive overview of GMX, and I hope we can do this again.
Thanks so much for having me today.